Hey, what's up guys, it's DarkArmedDuelist, and today I'm going to be doing an Aromage deck profile. So you guys have been requesting this one like crazy since we got the new support from Chaos Impact, and I'm really excited to say I finally built it and played around with it, and it's a lot of fun, and you guys should definitely give it a try. A lot of the cards are really beautiful cards in this deck, and I really love this deck because I actually did go to culinary school, and so playing around with these cards is like, hey, I know that spice, that's really cool. Especially playing around with stuff like rosemary, which is stuff that you use a lot as a staple in a lot of your cooking stuff. So without further ado guys, let's get straight in. Let's don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit that bell there so you can become part of the notification squad, and let's get straight on into this one. So we're going to be playing a single copy of Aromage Majorum. So Aromage Majorum is a really good card that when your life points are higher than your opponent's, you take no battle damage from attacks involving your plant monsters, and you can only use the following effects of it once per turn. When a plant monster you control is destroyed by battle, you can special summon this card from your hand and then gain 500 life. And if your opponent's, if you gain life points, target cards your opponent's graveyard up to the number of Aromage or Aroma monsters you control and banish them. So that's a really good effect to be able to just target cards in your opponent's graveyard every time you gain life points and just banish them, which is awesome to be able to do. I play just a single copy of Rosemary. Rosemary, when your life points are higher than your opponent's, if a plant monster you control attacks, your opponent cannot activate cards or effects until the end of the battle phase or in the damage step. And then once per turn, if you gain life points, you can target a monster your opponent controls and change its battle position. So you can change it to defense position or attack position, whichever one you kind of need it in. But it's just a good one-of because since we have links, you can't switch links to defense position, so it kind of sucks. So I just play her as a one-of. I play 3 copies of Jasmine. Jasmine is hands down the best one. Jasmine is really good because she has the ability during your main phase, when your life points are higher than your opponent's, you can normal summon a plant monster in addition to your normal summoner set, which can really get us into some XYZ plays, link plays, and all sorts of that, so we can climb into our big beat stick kind of monsters, because a lot of the arrow monsters have really weak stats, so that's just something to keep in mind. It also has the ability that once per turn, if you gain life points, you get to draw a card as well, which can be really pivotal to this deck. I play 2 copies of Aromage Lurel. This card's interesting because if your life points are higher than your opponent's, you can special summon this card from your hand, and if you gain life points, target one non-tuner monster on your field and treat it as a tuner monster this turn. And if this card is sent to the graveyard, you gain 500 life points. So it's a really good card. I just feel like it's a good 2-of. You could probably get away with 3 of it because in this particular build, I always am going to have life points higher than my opponent unless I'm going to lose. If I don't have higher life points, I'm probably losing. So that's pretty much Yu-Gi-Oh! But in this particular deck, the way it works is you want to have high life points. So this card is going to usually be live. I play 3 copies of Aromage Seraphy, Aroma Seraphy, and Angelica. I like the fairy. It's a good card to play as a 3-of because during either player's turn, you can discard it and then target an Aroma monster in your grave and gain life points equal to that target's attack. And then when your life points are higher than your opponent's, you control an arrow monster or Aroma monster, and this card's in your graveyard. You can special summon this card but banish it when it leaves the field. So it just comes back, helps us with link plays, helps us with synchro plays, but it's a really good card to just be able to put back on the field. And since we're playing a plant deck, you've got to play 3 Lone Fire. Lone Fire just helps us get monsters out of our deck onto the field. And helps us get into link plays and just empty out through the deck. I play 3 copies of Evil Thorn. Evil Thorn is a really interesting card to play in here because if it's normal summon, when you normal summon it, you can tribute it and then inflict 300 points of damage to your opponent and then special summon 2 more copies of Evil Thorn from your deck. So as long as you don't open 2 of these, you can normal summon it and then immediately link for the link monster, the Aroma Seraphy Jasmine, which can really help us dig into the deck a little bit deeper. So this card is really good. My little secret kind of tech that I play that not every Aromage player plays, and that is 3 copies of Ghost Sister and Spooky Dogwood. This card can make so much advantage that it's ridiculous, and I don't understand why people don't play this at 3 in this deck, because you trigger one of these and somebody takes the challenge and you're gonna win. Just getting 3,000 life points off this card is just ridiculous, because during either player's turn, except during the end phase, you can discard this card and apply the effect. Each time your opponent special summons a monster during the main or battle phase, you gain life points equal to the attack of the monster, and you if you did not gain life points from this effect, you have your life points during the end phase. So you usually chain this to when your opponent activates something to special summon a monster. So you're going to gain life points. But it's a really good card to be able to have in the deck because if you discard it at the right time, you can either scare people from special summoning, which can really intimidate them, or they're going to give you a bunch of life points. And at that point, you're going to win anyways because you're going to be able to trigger all of your Aromage monsters and be able to go into so many different plays. It's ridiculous. So either way, this card's really pivotal to my strategy. And then I play 3 copies of Ash Blossom as well as my other hand trap in the deck to be able to just stop my opponent in their tracks from searching stuff from their deck and doing all sorts of shenanigans there. So that's it for the monsters, guys. Let's get into the spells. The spells are kind of interesting in this deck. I'm going to be playing 3 copies of Instant Fusion because it helps me get into some really interesting Synchro plays and XYZ plays with this card because I do play Sea Monster of Thestalos in the extra deck, which can let me Synchro for other monsters. I also play the Millennium Eyes and Thousand Eyes, so you can just kind of stall out your opponent a little bit. 3 copies of Call by the Grave to stop my opponent from hand trapping me, because I don't want to get hand trapped. 1 copy of Monster Reborn and a copy of Terraforming, because I have stuff that I need to search and get back from the graveyard. 2 copies of Aroma Gardening. Aroma Gardening is one of the newer cards that came out of Chaos Impact, and it's a really interesting card that you can play in this deck, that if you normal or special summon an arrow monster, except during the damage step, you immediately gain 1,000 life points, and then when an opponent's monster declares an attack, while your life points are lower than your opponent's, you can special summon an arrow monster from your deck. But the really good thing is when you normal summon, you gain life points, so it triggers your arrow monsters immediately, which is really good. I play a single copy of Cauldron of the Old Man. Cauldron of the Old Man is really interesting because you can burn your opponent for 300 for each counter that you put on this card, which is usually what I do if I trigger Spooky Dogwood, or you gain 500 life points for each counter on it, and you put a counter on it during each of your standby phases, which is not that big of a deal. Usually Yu-Gi-Oh! Doesn't last that long anymore, but this card can help you in time. This card can help you in all sorts of different scenarios. And I only play 2 copies of Aroma Garden because I do play the Terraforming. Once per turn, if you control an arrow monster or aroma monster, you gain 500 life points. Also, all monsters you currently control gain 500 attack and defense into the end phase of your opponent's next turn. And then also, if a face-up Aromage monster or arrow monster you control is destroyed by battle or by card effect and sent to the grave, you immediately gain 1,000 life points. It's good, but it's not pivotal to the strategy that you have it, so I just play it as a 2 of. So that's it for the spells, guys. Let's get into the traps. The traps is really pivotal to this deck because they're so good that I can't express it. So we play a single copy of Dried Winds. Dried Winds is really good because if you control, if you gain life points, you can target a card your opponent controls, face a monster your opponent controls and destroy it. And if you control an arrow monster and your life points is at least 3,000 higher than your opponent's, you can pay life points equal to the difference. Destroy face-up monster your opponent controls whose combined original attack is less than or equal to the life points you paid. So you can really do something interestingly with this card, because if your opponent takes the Spooky Dogwood challenge and puts a bunch of monsters on the field and you have this set, you can 2-card combo wipe their board, because you activate this, or you activate this and let them special summon whatever they want, and then during end phase, if they didn't do you, or during battle phase, you flip this and you're like, hey, pay life points equal to what I gained and destroy all your monsters, which you can do, which is really interesting to be able to do in this deck. And it's super fun to just look at your opponent and just be like, hey, destroy them all. And it's just fun. It's just really funny to be able to do that. 2 copies of Humid Winds. Humid Winds is really good in the deck too because you can pay 1,000 life points and then add an arrow monster from your deck to your hand. And if your life points are lower than your opponent, you gain 500 life points. So you usually don't get to gain 500 in this deck. You usually just pay the stack and then get the arrow monster. But if you're going second or you're going first and you flip this on your opponent's turn, pay the stack and then gain the 5, you do sometimes get that. And then you also play 2 copies of Blessed Winds. You basically get to activate one of the following effects. You either send a plant monster from your hand or face up from your field to the grave, gain a stat, or gain 500. Target a plant monster in your grave, shuffle it in the deck, then gain 500. Or pay 1,000 and then special summon an arrow monster from your graveyard, which can be really good to be able to just gain the, get that extra Aromage monster or Aromage monster, any Aromage monster in your graveyard back on the field, like one of the Synchros or like the Fairy or anything that you need back on the field. So that's it for the main deck, guys. Let's get into the extra deck. So for the extra deck, we're going to be playing 2 copies of Aromage Sweet Majorum. This card's really good in the deck because it has the ability that when your life points are higher than your opponent cannot target plant monster you control with card effects. So it makes all of your plants untargetable, which can be really pivotal to be able to stop your opponent. And if this card is synchro summoned, you can add a Humid, Dried, or Blessed Winds from your deck to your hand. And if you gain life points, you can target one card your opponent controls and destroy it. So you usually want to put this on the field, but again, it's not really pivotal to put this on the field to win. So, I mean, it's really good, though, to be able to have this card. Then I play a single copy of Rosemary, because Rosemary is a little bit difficult to go into in this deck. When your opponent's life points are higher than your opponent's, all plant monsters gain 500, and then once per turn, if you gain life points, you can target an opponent's monster, one face-up card your opponent controls, and negate its effects until the end phase. So it's really good for the 500 boost, but again, it's a good card, but we have other cards that we can really go into to be able to stop our opponent. Borreload Savage Dragon, it's kind of easy to go into this sometimes. You just kind of have to stack your levels a little bit to go into this, but it is not that hard to go into. Ancient Sacred Wyvern is kind of like my trump card in the deck that you can go into, that when your life points are higher than your opponent's, this card gains attack equal to the difference. So you spooky dogwood your opponent and then make this and win, essentially. Really good card. And then while your life points are lower than your opponent's, this card loses attack equal to the difference. So that's really something that you have to keep in mind. And then when this card is destroyed by battle, then sent to your grave, you can pay a stack and then special summon it back. So this card's really pivotal again. I highly recommend going for this card. It does take a light monster to go into it, but that's not that big of a deal because the fairy is a light monster. And also, I mean, you can make it work. Like, you're usually just going to synchro with the fairy monster anyway, so you just have to kind of stack levels again to get into this. And then Black Rose Dragon is another monster that I play in here that people it's kind of underrated to play it in this deck, but it's really good to be able to make Black Rose Dragon for its second effect, for the banishing a plant monster and then changing one monster opponent controls to face of attack and then reducing its attack to 0. So that's really good. 2 copies of Aromage, Seraphie, Jasmine. Jasmine's really good in the deck too. It's like the pivotal card that you want to go into all the time. Linkuriboh for the Thousand Eyes and some of the monsters in the main deck. Boral Sword to be able to go into OTK your opponent. Nightmare Phoenix and Nightmare Cerberus to be able to pop and spells and traps and monsters. Really good in this deck to be able to go into. And then for the last 3 that I play in the deck is going to be a Sea Monster of Thessalos, so I can synchro into the Borreload for a level 3 monster or 3 level 2, or level 2 and level 1 and then this level 5. So it just kind of depends on what you need. And then Thousand Eyes and Millennium Eyes, because Thousand Eyes, Millennium Eyes is just really good for instant fusion. So that's it for the deck, guys. I hope you enjoyed this one. It's a super fun deck. It's not really expensive at all, to be perfectly honest with you. I mean, you don't have to play Borreload Savage. You don't have to play that. And I kind of did something that you guys requested of me and not play the Brilliant Fusion Engine. You can play the Brilliant Fusion Engine by playing Orthoscorpio and Darling Cobra, Brilliant Fusion, a Garnet, and the Star Gem Knight Seraphonite. You can play that if you want to, but I kind of wanted to avoid that and play like Evil Thorn and stuff like that, because you guys really were adamant about when you requested that I didn't play that, and I just wanted to show you guys a different way of playing the deck. So anyways, guys, this is DarkArmedDuelist. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Tell me what you think of this deck down in the comments down below, and I look forward to doing the next deck profile for you guys. So anyways, guys, this is DarkArmedDuelist. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Hit the bell on the there so you can become part of the notification squad, and I'll see you guys in the next video. See you around, guys.